So hello everybody, and as always, welcome to another episode of Real Talk for Coaches. And as you know, I am your host, Coach Dawn, CEO and founder of Read Ready Love Coaching. And you guys know that I love to bring you information that will help you in your coaching practice. And one of the things I thought would be really ideal, especially for external coaches or coaches who are entrepreneurs and have their own businesses, is to talk a little bit more about virtual assistants, hiring a virtual assistant, what that will mean for you, why it's important. I'm going to tell you some of my stories, and then I'm going to have my special guest, Jasmine Monk. I think I'm saying that right, Jasmine Monk. Did I say it right, Jasmine?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay. And I'm going to let Jasmine introduce herself, but Jasmine is going to join me. She is a virtual assistant. She has her MBA, but I'm going to let her talk about herself because you guys know I feel like can't nobody talk about you better than you. So I'm going to have Jasmine introduce herself, and then we're going to get into this deep dive on what is this VA business, this virtual assistant business, and how this is very important for coaches. So I'm glad to have Jasmine on. And so Jasmine, I'm going to let you start off by saying who you are, and then I'll get into my questions with you.
Sounds good. Well, I appreciate you, Coach Dawn, so much for having me. It is such a pleasure, and I'm truly looking forward to dropping some nuggets today for the coaching community. So again, my name is Jasmine, guys, and I am a virtual assistant. I've been in the industry probably about 4 years now. And through most of my 4 years, I actually have supported coaches. So I know how important it is to have a virtual assistant. I know how important it is to have a virtual assistant, by your side through your journey, with your small business is super important. And as Dawn mentioned, I have my MBA as well, and I have, done a little bit of everything from general administration to digital marketing to tech to system setup, you name it. I've kind of played a lot of different hats in the virtual assistant world. So I'm really looking forward to talking a little bit more how we truly can support you in your business and why it's so important to have a VA.
Perfect. So this, I feel, is going to be a very good topic for coaches in particular, or any entrepreneur looking for a VA, but we are focused on coaches because I can tell you right now, when I first started my business, and most coaches can attest to this, is that we're solo entrepreneurs, meaning if we have us and maybe a couple of little interns, we got to, that's our staff. And I know the challenges that can be because, as a CEO, I want to focus on making money for the business. I want to focus on the programming. I don't want to focus on the admin stuff. I don't want to focus on the back stuff. I want somebody else to do all that stuff for me. So one of the questions I'm going to ask you first is, what's a VA or virtual assistant, and what kinds of duties or responsibilities do you feel a VA can handle for a coach?
That's a really good question. So basically a virtual assistant, is very simple, where think as if, you went in someone's business and there's like a frontline person there. And in other times, sometimes a virtual assistant can also serve as the back end office too. Right. I've seen it both ways. So they're basically an assistant for you and for your business. They can support you, like I mentioned, on the back end. So if you're running webinars, if you are launching a membership course, or you have membership programs or whatever it is, you can have someone to manage those day-to-day operations for you. They can help with client management. They can help just setting up those systems for you. Email management is a big one, especially if you have like group coaching, or if you have a membership, or if you have a course, even whether it's self-paced or whether they're in a cohort. I've seen all of it. And so VA is really good for that. And as far as the front end, client communication is big. I've seen it to where they serve as a door between you and your clients, because I know how it can be that people are emailing you and contacting you all day when they first get in your program. They're asking you a million questions. And you can have someone there saying, this is Susie, she's my assistant, and all of your questions go to her. Yes. And so if she kind of comes in, she can kind of filter things. If she has questions, she can ask you, but you're not getting bombarded, and you can focus on, being the creative, being the CEO, having a bird's eye view of your business. So a virtual assistant can help with a lot of things, general admin, like I mentioned, data entry, email management, calendar management. Right. Data mining is huge, people don't realize if it's something new you want to do, a new venture, research takes a lot of time. Market research as well takes a lot of time. When you look at a week or a month's worth of how much research you've done on something you want to do, you're like, oh my gosh, I could have spent that time doing something else. Okay. So a VA is very, very common for the data mining and research, putting spreadsheets together, that type of thing. Like I mentioned, digital marketing. So organic marketing, paid marketing, setting up funnels, building landing pages, all those things, right? And then the tech side system. I mean, there are so many different hats that a VA can wear. And I'll go ahead. This may be a question later, but I kind of want to talk about it. I get this a lot. Depending on what you need in your business, one VA may not be able to cut it. You may need different VAs that are specialized at different things. So if you need copywriting, you may need to hire a copywriting VA where all they do is write converting sales copy for you, but then you may have a separate person to build your landing page or build your funnel or build your website, or you may have a social media VA, right? So I just kind of want to touch on that because that's a question I always get. They want to hire like this unicorn VA, which we are out there. But in other cases, depending on what it is, you really want to narrow that down as much as possible, just depending on what it is and what you're hiring for. Is it for a launch? Is it for day-to-day operations? So just a few things to kind of think about.
You actually got my brain spinning, because then I was going to ask this question later, but I think it's better to ask it now since you just kind of talked about you can have a VA for different projects. Right. And so I will be very transparent. I think one of the things, my mistake as a coach, an entrepreneur coach, was I was looking for the unicorn VA. And I didn't think so much to get a VA to do PR, get a VA to do my calendar and emails, get a VA to do my social media. Like technically, from what I'm hearing from you, like coaches may want to, if they can't find the unicorn, I am looking for the unicorn. If you can't find the unicorn, then you may have to divide projects or supports between different types of VAs. So with that being said, what do you think are 5 traits coaches should look for when they're hiring a VA? And even if it's separate pieces, you can say, well, if you want, someone to just do this, you want these traits. If you want somebody to do this, you want these traits. Like you can expound on this how you like. But I am curious, what should we look for in a VA?
Yeah, that's a really good question. The first thing I totally think you should look for is somebody that has the same values that you do. It's important to work with someone, especially virtually. So, when you have someone in the office, that's one thing you can really get to know each other. That building that chemistry and trust is different. When it's virtual, hence virtual assistant. And I did not really go into that early. I didn't go into that earlier, but virtual assistant, we're virtual. So the cool thing, they have your assistant may be across the world, but your business is still running. You're still getting things done. And so my clients, I probably met in my 4-year career, like 2 clients in person, maybe. Wow. Hey, not many. So, we still were able to build those relationships. So yeah, the first thing is just finding someone that, the interviewing process is important. I'm going to say that. I have hired VAs myself. I've been on both sides of the seat. And the biggest thing I would say that is really key is getting like the Myers-Briggs and getting some of those people's, I'm just drawing a blank, I'm sorry. The compatibility level.
Yeah.
What you are and what they are. I've seen that a lot, and it works because anybody can fool you in an interview. It's when they show up, you give them work and you'll see if they show out. And that is, one common mistake that as a solopreneur, you're so busy. You have clients, you're growing, you're like, I need this help now. But one of the biggest mistakes you can make is not to vet and to not really have a thorough interviewing process. Right. You will thank yourself later. You will save yourself so much time, so much money. I've seen it happen. So yeah, getting those test scores. Myers-Briggs, you have the Colby-A assessment. There are a few out there. The Enneagram, picking one of those. And then in your interviewing process, another cool thing you can do is to have them send you a video. That will turn off like half of the people right there. People are lazy. I've seen it. Have it, if you put like a something on Facebook in a Facebook group, like, hey, I'm looking for somebody, this is what I'm looking for. People will be quick to be like, hey, I'm the one.
Right. So true.
When you start getting detailed in that job description, I'm like, oh, I don't feel like doing that. So I'm not going to apply. So even like having them send you a quick 2-minute video, the people that go over and beyond, those are the people you want to start looking at and narrowing your search and talking to. What else? I would say the biggest things is proactive. Somebody that is proactive, because a virtual assistant is not sitting there with you day to day. So you have to trust that this person, time management is big too. They can manage their time and be a self-starter, be a go-getter, and be proactive with what you give them, but then like the next things to come. In other cases, I've seen this get misconstrued with an OBM, like an online business manager or like a project manager. So sometimes it depends, right? Sometimes you have virtual assistants will possess like all of the above on what I'm talking about. Sometimes you have virtual assistants that do exactly just what you say, and that's it. They will do exactly what you say. You have to know what you're looking for. Are you looking for that over and beyond? A, you're going to pay a little bit more money.
That is true.
But B, they probably can do a lot more and bring more value to your business, right? If you have everything lined out to a T and you're like, I know I need these things done, and you don't mind, like, that's it. They're not going to come with suggestions. They're not coming to the table with anything except they're good at following directions.
Got you.
Have those VAs, right?
Yes.
So just kind of give you some perspective, kind of trying to get your brains thinking. All of the above is out there. So when you're thinking, oh my gosh, I need to outsource, these are just a few of the things. I could talk about this all day long, but I don't want to, we can talk offline. I'm more than happy to get into detail, but just these are a few things you just kind of want to think about when you're looking to outsource, looking to bring someone on.
And I think that's very important, because I do like a thorough description of what I want when I'm hiring a VA. Now, I don't necessarily do the Myers-Briggs test or anything like that, which I think is good. Like, I like the suggestion. I mean, I do it with clients. You would think I would do it with staff, right? So I do like that suggestion. But I do agree, you have to know what you want as a coach. There are some coaches who do exactly what I want you to do. I'll give you directions, you do exactly what I told you, and they don't want input. Or you'll have somebody like me, I'm like, I'm a little bit combination of both. It's like I have certain things I want done, but I'm so open to someone saying, we can do it better, or I found a better application, or this works better here, doing it this way, this is what I've seen in my past. And a key thing is I want somebody to take initiative. And I think a lot of coaches kind of want that too. Like, well, I shouldn't say that, because I just know me. I know me personally, I don't want to think too hard about that administrative stuff. Once I kind of put it in your hand, I want to trust you 100% to get it done. So I think you gave some really good, clear information on what coaches should look for. What kind of traits are they looking for? And I agree, do a thorough investigation. I definitely.
Big. References, I left that out. That's really big.
References.
One or two clients you've worked with before. If they say they've been in the industry a while, they should be able to provide that with no problem. Or if you don't mind a newer VA, they may not have that, but they may have examples or samples of projects they've done. So I forgot that too. So you always
want to point.
Other things that you could add on there as well to kind of vet, someone.
That's true. Now, you did make a good point. You said a lot depends on how much you want to pay. And you're right. Because like I said, I've started with brand new spanking. This is my first position VA, where I spent like $10 an hour. Then I've gone all the way up to about $30 an hour for a VA. And I do agree, the more you pay, the better services you get. And that is true. So what do you think is an appropriate amount? And I know it's different for every VA, but if you're looking for an experienced VA, and somebody that can take charge, take initiative, right? And you don't have to babysit them too much. What would you say is fair? And you give me a range, because I don't want to, put anybody in a box. Like, what's a range you think would be competitive?
That's a really good question. So a couple of things with that. Depends on if you're hiring in the United States or overseas. So obviously,
that's true.
Overseas, you get cheaper labor, and I've had good experiences. I've had bad experiences,
right.
With them over there. And a big part of that is not that they're incompetent. It's just the language barrier. Like, that's never going to change. So, but if you find a really good person over there, they'll be with you for life. And most times they're loyal. So that's one good thing. So overseas, I would say anywhere from 15 to 20, you can find a really good one that you probably won't have to babysit much, but you may have to break things down.
Right.
But once they get it, they have it. And if there are routine tasks or projects they're doing for your coaching business, you're going to be golden and good to go. I would say in the US, could start at 20, 25 and go up to 30 or 40. Most VAs have what are called like retainer packages. And so basically it's a package of hours for the month that they're spending on your business, and you delegate those hours however you want. Like, hey, like, I bought 20 hours. This is what I need.
Right.
So yeah, I would say in the US, 20s on the lower, like for a really good one that can kind of take it on their own and they're kind of seasoned, minimum probably 20. It can range up to 25, 30, up to 40. But sometimes what VAs do is we will, if you buy more hours for the month, like if we're at least getting 10 hours minimum a week or 15, we'll discount the hourly rate. Okay. Because you're buying more hours. So sometimes, like in most cases, the more hours you buy, you get a discount. This is if you went anywhere else. So, and if you buy they may have one-time deals or, hey, this is a project base or some are just hourly too. And you just have to be careful with that. And because if they bill you at the end of the month, you're like, oh my gosh, you spent 50 hours.
Right.
So, it just depends. And that's for, like we talked about earlier, some of the specialized VAs, they're going to be in that same range. Now, they may have some package deals, like if you have a launch, like a course launch or something, it may be a package deal like, hey, these are all of the copy items I'm going to give you, and this is the price.
Got you.
But for ongoing management, for someone that is in your business day to day on a daily and weekly basis, probably those retainer packages will be more of a fit. So hope that gives a little bit more.
No. It gives a good, yes, I think that was good. And I didn't even think about when you hire someone overseas or non-US VAs. And I'm glad you brought that up, because you're right. You can hire someone from other countries. So absolutely. And they will probably be cheaper than the United States. Mm-hmm. They probably will. But this is good to know. But I think that you made a valid point too, because I did hire a VA out of another country. I really did. But that was a project. That was one little project I had. And you're right. I did spend a lot of time having to break down because of the language barrier. And doing a lot of what I call my Vanna White, look and sees, and you're right. You're absolutely right. But I have come to find out the hard way that it's worth having a budget for a high-end VA that can give you more.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, I learned that the hard way. Being honest, be transparent. Yeah. Okay, awesome. So what are things that we should look out for as far as risks? Like, are there any hidden consequences that maybe a coach may not know until after it's too late? And I'll give you an example. Like, I had hired a VA. This is like when I first started hiring VAs. And I realized that there was a conflict of interest. Like, she was using my resources for her gain. She was also not doing the work when she was supposed to be working, You know what I mean? And actually, she was one of the VAs that taught me a lot of valuable lessons and made me put a lot of things in my contracts, and these are the things I need, and blah, blah, blah. If it wasn't for her, so I'm thankful for the experience because she helped me fine tune what I was looking for. But, you know, what can you advise coaches who are looking for a VA and don't want to have the mistake that I made, you know, of getting people who may not value your business like you do? Does that make sense? I hope I asked the question. You understand what I'm getting at?
That makes a lot of sense. And, you know, it's unfortunate that, and this is everywhere you go, but there are all those, there's those few bad apples out there that'll mess it up for the rest of
everybody. Yes.
I have been in that situation. Oh my gosh. So there are a lot of things. You know, one of the first things I would do is probably go to one of your colleagues that have used the VA before and talk to them. Like, hey, what do you have in place? You know, what are can I see your contract? What are the things? So you can always go to Coach Dawn too. Hey, Coach Dawn, like, I know you've been doing this a long time.
Very true.
You know, that's like one of the first things I would do. Some of the other things just off the top is having a, you know, secure way to share your passwords. So, you know, people that are like, you know, I just trust everyone and I'm gonna hire this person and they're just going to be amazing. And you don't know that. So sometimes just protecting yourself in your business using like LastPass.com or Dashlane.com is, you know, a password sharing tool where you can share your passwords, but they can't see your passwords and you can cut that access off at any moment. So that's pretty neat. Something else I would say is, so I had like 3 things. Okay. So it was the passwords. Time. That's a big one.
It's a huge one.
Time. Oh my gosh. So if they're tracking their time, highly recommended. You know, it's more expensive now. Sometimes there are a million time tracking programs out there. But there are some that take pictures of the screen while the VA is working. And so one that I've used before that's really cool is called Hive Desk. And so they cost a little bit more, but it's worth the money. It depends on your situation. If you have a whole team, it's worth it. It just depends, you know, and it just depends on your situation. But I've seen that to be very helpful because I've seen people get cheated with time. On their time sheet, they're saying they spent this much time on this, and it's like, but it doesn't take that long to do that. I've seen some different things. And so with the timesheets, there's a couple ways it can go and that I've seen it. And it's completely up to you on how you want to set it up. Sometimes, you know, I've worked with coaches that are like, do you have a time tracker tool? Use that and send me your timesheet. Okay, great. I'm like, I can send you that. Other times I've had coaches where they were like, this is what I'm using. You use this. And that's what I used, and they may have had Hive Desk or something similar. So it's completely up to you if you want to incur that cost, or if you're like, hey, I'm just going to have to put my trust in whoever I hire and they incur the cost. And there are a lot of free systems out there to track time as well. So just to kind of give you guys a little bit about that. And there was something else I had. I forgot that fast.
Okay. It's all
such good stuff. Coach Dawn, you made a good point about, you know, and I think it kind of goes back down to the interviewing process, because if you really do as much of a thorough search as you can, if you have the time, I highly recommend it. Some of these things will be knocked off the chart anyway, especially when you start talking to references, people they've worked with before, you know, just other things like that. Some of these things are just going to get knocked off. And as far as I would say honesty and trust, that's something you have to build. So I wouldn't lay everything out on the line, because you mentioned, Coach Dawn, about you had like one of your first VAs, she was using your resources for her gain. And so it's kind of, you have it in the contract, absolutely, but it's like, what can you do besides just let them go, you know, and find somebody else? You have to give them access to your business. And I know from experience and, you know, being on both sides of the seat, that it's hard. It's your baby, it's your business, and you're letting someone all of that.
All into your business.
And it's hard.
Yes. Yeah.
All into, I mean, you see everything. And so I get it.
It's like being naked. It's like, I'm being naked to this person. Like, seriously.
Yes. It's hard. And
you're right.
Unfortunately, if you want to scale and grow, it is a necessity. And if you have some of these things in place that we're talking about today, it will reduce what could happen, or that really bad outcome, or the negative outcome, or the bad experience. It will reduce that as much as possible, but it's all about a learning experience. And even with doing that thorough interview process, sometimes you don't find your unicorn or your number one VA on the first try. It may take you 2 or 3 to get to that. Coach Dawn is raising her hand. It may take a few to get to that one where you're like, this is the one. We understand my business. Like, this is it. Or you may get lucky and get them on the first try. I've seen all of it. So I would say just do your due diligence. Don't rush the process. Know, like Coach John said, know what you want and what you need. And really just tell them, this is what I need. Can you do it or not? I just need to know, just setting those expectations are important. Don't come in, not having your stuff together. That is the worst thing to do. And you're not setting them up for success. And if it's hard for you, you're not, what's the word? Not being economical with the funds, with what you're paying for. This doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. So, I could go on that all day long. Some good nuggets there. So I hope you guys.
Those are excellent nuggets. I'm sitting here going, if I had it, did what I'm spanking my own hand. If I had it, did what I'm supposed to do in the beginning.
Yes. Oh my God.
And you're right. And even having this conversation with you, I'm starting to see where I could have done a better job in picking my VAs in the past. Like, even just having this conversation. And you're absolutely right. So I do feel like these are really, really, really good nuggets. Oh my gosh, I think we covered a lot of great stuff. I'm trying to think, what was the other questions I had for you? So how personal can or should the VA and their support, their person, their coach, how personal can they get? Because like me, and I've said this before, like I am more of a personal person, and I'm building a company that's very family oriented, meaning I want to know what's going on with the people that work with me, whether you're a contractor or whether you're a full-time employee. Like, your life is important to me. I don't need to know what you have for breakfast this morning. You know what I mean? I don't need to know every little date or anything like that. But I do want to know that you're happy. And I want to know that your life is good. And I want to know if you're having a good day. And I think that's important. Or if you're sick, I want to be there to support you. And that's just my mindset. And so I feel like that about anybody who's in my employ. All right. So, and I know I can already hear the answer, but I'm going to still ask it. What kind of boundaries should be put in place? Because I'm probably bad at this, because I do want to be personal. But there has to be a line. And I know there has to be a line. I'm not looking for my VA to be my best friend, but I care about people. Does that make sense? And I think you're going to find, and you might know because you work for other coaches, coaches tend to be personal because we care about people. So tell me your thoughts. I know I said a lot. Talk to me about that boundary.
This is big. This is huge. I've seen it all. So really, honestly, there's not just this right or wrong answer. What I would say is, it's your coaching business.
Right.
Coach Dawn, if your business is family oriented, you're going to set that expectation at the beginning. It should be like, that's how you want it. This is who I am. This is what we're about. Yeah. And if they fit into that, great. And if they don't, it's not a fit.
It's not a fit.
That may be a fit, but there may be other parts of them that just aren't a fit and they don't align. And that goes back into, do they share the same values as you? You value family, you care. And so that is super important. I have been in professional relationships working with coaches where it was very transactional. Wasn't my thing either. I'm like, Can we talk about your family? How are the kids? What did you do for your birthday? I'm like that too. I'm not about the transactional relationships. And to be quite honest, with us being virtual, it helps us to build our relationship a lot stronger, and it helps us to build that trust, and all of that. It's important. I've seen a difference.
It is a big difference.
You know, it depends on you. So if you are very transactional, you will attract those transactional people. If you have a warm heart and you're open and you're compassionate, you're going to attract those people. And those that don't fit, they're gonna eliminate themselves, because it's not a fit. So it's just
oh my gosh. I can't. It's like, I swear it was like you're a fly on the wall.
That's exactly, like, you're not going to fit in. It's just not going to work no matter what that person does. It's like they're going to be an outcast because it's just not a fit. Yep. And one thing that I learned in my couple-year journey in doing this, I'm a very warm-hearted person. I'm a servant at heart. I want to help everyone.
Yeah.
To learn was I can't help everyone. It's not always a fit. And so I learned that the hard way. I've tried to help some people, and I'm like, it didn't, the puzzle never got it together. And so I'm like, hey, here's the situation. And they understood. They're like, you're right. And I'm like, yes. And so just finding that fit, I can't express it enough. It's like having the correct shoe size. You have to have it. Otherwise you're going to see it. Like
you just use my analogy. Oh my gosh. When I say it's like having a good pair of shoes, I say that all the time.
Yes. It's like having a good pair of shoes.
Yes.
And you find them, oh my gosh, like you
golden. Never want to take them off. And you wear them all the time. Yes.
So that's my answer to that. And so, I know as you're listening, as the audience is listening, I want your wheels to be turning, like, and thinking like, for those of you that have hired before, these are still a lot of things. Even Coach Dawn, she's been doing this a long time, and she's like, oh my gosh, she's reflecting on her past experiences. Yes. And then she's like, hey, I'm going to make sure I have this for my future experiences. And then for those of you that it's your first time, you're getting the nuggets up front. And so not everybody gets that. So I would definitely be taking notes.
Yes.
If you have questions, ask Coach Dawn. You can reach out to me. I'll give my contact information.
Yes, please do. Yes.
I'm more than happy to help, because I, truly believe that our small business community can grow. Yes. And I'm all for that. And however I can help, I'm definitely, available to do that. So, yeah.
I love it. Oh my God. So this was exceptional. This was amazing. And like I said, it has this, all I can do is I'm cracking up. Like my face hurt because I'm smiling because I'm like, oh my God. Because I learned all this the hard way. So anybody listening to this, they're getting all of this great information so they don't have to make the mistakes that I made or the mistakes that other coaches have made. I know another problem that we coaches have too is that we're afraid of, like you said, this is our baby. And so you're letting somebody rock that baby and feed that baby with you. And I think that a lot of coaches or solo entrepreneurs are afraid that that person is not going to care about your business. And I know no one's going to care about your business like you. That's a given. Just like nobody cares about your kids like you care about your kids. But you want them to care enough where they wouldn't harm your baby. And so do you have any thoughts or nuggets or input on, and what are things we can use to say, yes, this person will, or what can we do to make sure we're getting the right person? You said interviewing and references, but anything else you could think of, because you do want somebody that's going to love your baby or care about it sufficiently.
Yeah.
Does that make sense, what I'm asking?
That makes a lot of sense. Let me see if I could think of anything else off the top of my head. That's a toughie.
Because I'm sure it goes into, like you said, doing a personality assessment, checking references. But like, is there a question that when we're interviewing that we can ask, do you think? Or what would be a question if you were hiring someone for your business, to work with you, and like, how would you confirm that they have enough care for your business?
That's a good question. One would be like how I address the references. Like if I would definitely have that in there. Probably have a question, not just saying, hey, tell me your experience about Susie, but I would go into detail, like probably have 2 or 3 points that, you know, you are really looking for in yours to make sure that that's a fit. And you'll get a pretty good idea on how their relationship was.
Right.
What they say back. As far as interviewing questions, you know, some of the things you could ask are, you know, what are your short-term goals, long-term goals? That's important because if it's just them, you know, and they're trying to have this virtual assistant agency in the next year, that may not be a good fit for you because they probably won't be around very long. So you won't really have time to build like you want. Another question you could ask is, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. There are a few interviewing. You made a good point. There are a few interviewing questions you can ask. I'm just like really drawing a blank right now. Yeah, but I would say just think long and hard when you're having a conversation with them. Those questions, sometimes those behavioral style questions.
Yeah.
So even if you just go to Google and type in, because I just can't think right now. I'm really trying to type in behavioral style interviewing questions. You can go on there and kind of pick a few like, oh yeah, and then just put it in.
Modify it for your situation.
Exactly. So I would recommend that, but I would say that would be a big key, and do a video interview. Don't just talk to them on the phone.
I agree with that.
Don't take an application. See their face, see what their background looks like. See how they, you know, if they just come like they just rolled out of bed, or if they're
how they present themselves. Right.
Oh, I do have one thing. And this, you may have this on the application, or if you're talking to them, is, you know, what makes you interested, you know, in Read Ready Life Coaching.
Right.
When you research on me, what did you find? So, and if they don't do that, that's kind of a first step. Like, I don't know. Not everybody comes prepared because they just think you're going to ask questions about their skill set, if they can design graphics or do whatever. But that's a big one that I've seen that catch people off guard because they did not do their due diligence.
And so they should.
Exactly.
They should. You should tell me a little bit about what you found out about my company.
Yeah.
That means you cared a little bit to find out something, right? That makes a lot of sense to me. And what about the whole how many clients the VA has? Like, for instance, you work with coaches. Like, could that be a conflict of interest? How many people do you work with? Like, what would that look like? You know, can that tell me something?
Yes, it can. That's a very good question. It depends on the type of support that you need from your VA. If you're looking for someone for like at least 40, 50, 60 hours a month, that's a huge question because they're going to be engulfed in your business 10, 15, 20 hours a week. And so it's important, and yes, very easily. And if you're telling them it could grow from there, it's important to know, hey, how many clients are you working with now? Can you just 100% verify that? No, you kind of have to go off the honor code.
True.
But hope that you'll know very quickly in like a really short amount of time if they were telling you the truth or not. You'll know. If they start falling behind and that type of thing, you're going to be like, okay, you're too busy. You're too busy from the jump. And so you need to cut that string and start a new one, like quickly.
Because I've experienced that too. Where all of a sudden they start out great. Like, they really start out great. And all of a sudden they're falling behind. They're forgetting a lot of stuff. And I'm like, okay. Yeah. And it was a clear sign that the person was they had too many clients and they couldn't manage my needs. Because I know I have a lot of needs. You know what I mean? And they couldn't manage mine with their other clients. And like I said, when you're talking about this VA relationship, it's clear that the VA has their own business. You are not their only client. And I'm fully aware of that. But at the same time, like you said, if you're doing 40, 50, 60 hours a month, they kind of have to have that time to devote to you because you're asking for a lot of hours.
Exactly. Yeah. I've been in situations like personally where I took on too much more than I could chew. And this was a while back. And I'm like, what did I get myself into?
Right.
Where now, you know, I'm more of, hey, I want to work with those 2 or 3 clients that I'm servicing 10, 15, 20 hours a week. And that's just my preference. So that's definitely a good question to ask. If you don't need that type of support and you just need like a one-time project or that type of
that's different.
Yeah, it's different. You still can ask. I would ask, hey, what's your turnaround time? What's your bandwidth? If I have something else that comes up, how much time in advance do you need? Like, those are really good questions you could ask. Like, if you need, some copy written or something, right. What's your turnaround time? Is it 48 hours, 72 hours, 24 hours? What does that look like? So those are some of the questions you can ask in those situations. But yeah, Coach, you made a really good point. That's a very, very important question.
All of this is coming from past experience. Let me tell you. And this is why I thought this show was going to be really important, because I know other coaches who have hired VAs and they've had horror stories. And so I do a monthly coaching group, all coaches. And sometimes we have these conversations around this very topic. And it's what I want to make sure that when a coach looks for VA and somebody come across this particular episode, that they really have a good foundation to start with. And like I said, it's kind of painful to go through the experiences. Yeah. So we can help people limit some of the pain points. So a lot of this is coming from my own experience. And like I said, I'm still learning. Even now I'm learning, oh yeah, I can do this different. I can do this different. So this is really good. And I think it's beneficial because I know for a fact that, I can't do this by myself. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. And I need help. I need good people who care about my business, who want to see it grow, because my growth means their growth, right? And so you want the right people, and you spend so much time and money sometimes on people who are not a good fit.
Yes.
And it's like, oh. So yeah, I'm hoping that this will help somebody. I know it helped me. I mean, I thought it was good. Is there anything else you want to share about this journey of hiring a VA? Oh, no, we're going to that word. How can somebody be a VA? Because sometimes people may want to know, especially because coaching is huge. And I do think coaches need VAs. Like, you should have a VA. So how can somebody get into this industry before I ask other questions?
Yeah. My personal journey, I started out in a Facebook group. Didn't even know that this world existed.
Oh.
And I'm just so glad there are just a lot of resources online. There are actually VA coaches out there that coach you and train you on how to be a VA, what to do, what to have in place, the whole shebang. I didn't go through that program. I had the business acumen already. I just needed to know what I needed to use. I had an invoicing system. People can book calls. I set up a quick landing page or website. And that's how I started. I had the skill set, but I didn't experience using the systems and tools that, we use on a day-to-day basis from the digital marketing, email marketing, you name it. And so I was very transparent with clients about that when I first started. And because of that, they were like, and I said, I'm a quick learner. I'm a fast learner. Just give me the opportunity. And I just kind of got my foot in the door that way, one after another, and just learned and built and, just kept adding tools to my tool belt. So I would either try to find a program. There are so many out there. I can't say that this one's the best because I haven't taken one.
Gotcha.
I know so many VAs that have gone through different programs. Google it, go on Facebook. And then there are a lot of Facebook groups with support.
Okay.
With people that are there with you along the way. Any questions you have, like the questions that I think are, I'm not going to say there are no dumb questions, but questions that I'm like, oh my gosh, I know the answer to that. I didn't know that 4 years ago.
Gotcha.
And so there are some groups out there that are there for you no matter where you are in your journey, on your VA journey. And so whether you're just starting or even me now, I have some questions. I'm like, how could I do this a little bit different? Because now I'm a little bit more seasoned, I've been through some experiences. So yeah, I would go out there and do a search. It's awesome space to be in, just like coaching. It's awesome to be in. You meet a lot of people and you just get to do, you get to serve and just get to help people. The biggest part for me is, like I said, I'm a servant at heart. It's just being able to help people get more hours back in their day, help them be more productive, help them scale and grow. When I see that and I see that I play a role in that, that motivates me more to keep pushing. I'm like, oh my gosh, what can I do next for them so that they can make $1 million on the next one.
Right.
I'm like, what can I do? I love seeing that and seeing my clients' faces when they tell me, Jasmine, I couldn't have done this without you. You've been such a big help. That keeps me going. And so I love it. I love doing what I do.
Okay. So two questions, my two final questions. This question is, since you work with multiple coaches, how do you make sure there's no conflict of interest? Because not that I try not to see my fellow coaches as competitors, but business is business and you do have competition. But, how do you deal with the conflict of interest or making sure you don't spill over into other coaches' businesses and stuff like that?
That's a good question. I have my blocker on. So if I have the client A I'm working with, I'm working on client A stuff. Like nothing with client B or C is in my view. I'm not worried about it because I'm working on coach A, but that's just me.
Okay.
So as far as anyone else, I would recommend doing the same thing. A big thing is I always have 1 million tabs up in my browser. Close out those extra tabs. Make sure all you have up is client A's stuff. Dedicate your time. I recommend block scheduling. I have so many moving parts and things all the time. If I'm working on client A, I'm like, okay, Monday from 9 to 12 is client A. No distractions, no extra things. And that has helped me manage my time a lot because you can find yourself going back and forth all of the time because there's so many moving pieces and so many things. But that's probably the best piece of advice I can give because it's helped me. And so when I'm working on A, I'm working on A. When I'm working on client B, I'm working on client B. And I've worked with all types of coaches, from business coaches to I've worked with VA coaches to relationship and dating courses. I've worked with, sex coaches. I've worked, you name it, all types. And so that's kind of what I've done to do that. And one thing that's cool though, is just the experience that I have gotten with each of them over time. I will use that, the best outcome that came out of that for the next client.
Okay.
So not the information or anything that the client.
But like a process.
The process, right?
The process, right.
Or maybe even they launched and we did this, but we did it wrong. But I know when I'm working with this new client, I'm like, hey, we can do it this way because I've seen it work. Not anything that they did, none of their details, none of their information, because I sign NDAs with everyone. So that's that experience. As a VA, it's pretty cool. We can get that, things happen, you have fires, you have bad experiences, but you can take that and it makes you stronger. You put more tools in your tool belt for the next person, and you just keep going from there. So
my final question for you: how do you take care of you? Because I'm sure this could be stressful. I'm sure this could be a heavy lift, and if you're not an organized person, I am sure it could fall apart very easy. So how do you make time for you?
That is a good question. I did not figure this out until last year because I have 2 little ones. They're 2 and 4. And at one time I was homeschooling them. So you can imagine I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off, but I made it work. So a few things that worked for me. Number 1, the self-care is so important. I went to the gym and I made sure that, I ate. I ate better. Like I chose better options for my food. And that right there just helped me a lot.
Yep.
Another thing that I did was I woke up at 4:00 in the morning. People are like, why it's so early? I was in the bed by like 8. The reason I did it was because that's the only time I had in a day to myself. I meditate. If I wanted to meditate or pray or catch up on work, I knew that I had that time before my kids got up, before my husband, anybody. And I could sit there and do what I needed to do. That works for me. It may not work for everyone, in their situation, but it works for me big time, carving out that time. Another thing is having, I have my calendar, I have a project management tool. I have all of these things to keep me organized with what's going on in my home life and my business. Because if I don't, I will forget. I'm quick to forget things. And so I write everything down. I put it in my calendar from the time I wake up and brush my teeth. Daughter has dance. I'm going to eat at this time. And it works for me. So I'm not scrambling all the time. And There was one more thing I had. Oh my gosh, it was good. Oh, setting boundaries with your clients, but just for your business in general. Give yourself some hours of operation. You don't have to work around the clock in 24 hours, and you shouldn't be expected to.
That's right.
You need time for you, because if you don't get rest and you're not at your best, then you can't be the best for your family, husband, kids, wife, clients, or whomever.
That's right.
Can't be your best for them. And so it's important for you to set those boundaries. And when you shut it down for the day, you shut it down.
That's right.
Don't do anything. And so when you set that boundary at the beginning, your clients will respect that. And sometimes they may ask, like, hey, when will you be around? When will you not be around? They want to know. And weekends as well. So, it's on a case-by-case scenario. Everyone has a lot of things going on, but try to get your weekends, or just get 1 or 2 days a week. It may not be a weekend for you, it may be a weekday, but
your time. That's your time. Yeah.
In your time.
Yep.
And just kind of cut your screen time. That could be social media. And I'm not even talking about just business.
Just scrolling.
Yeah. Don't be on Facebook and Instagram all day.
That can take you like 4 hours. I'm glad you said that. Because once I was looking up, I'm like, what you mean I've been on for 4 hours? Oh, no. And I cut that real quick. Yeah, like, that's taking up too much time.
Exactly. And it's like, before you know it, it's like, oh my gosh, I could have been doing this. I could have been doing that. And that was your day off. And you're like, So, just limit your screen time too. I promise everything will be there.
It sure will.
Not going anywhere.
Oh my God. Jasmine, this was great. This was a great conversation. This was a great talk. How can people contact you or learn about your VA services?
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. I'm so glad. And I hope you guys got some really awesome nuggets. I mean, there's so much more I could say. And if you're having issues with outsourcing, or if you just have questions, reach out to Coach Dawn and myself. I don't mind just having a chat with you and answering questions, or if you're going through some things and, just need some help. So you guys can find me on my website at jasmineco.org, or on Facebook and Instagram at the handle for Facebook and Instagram is at Jasmine Co Team.
Nice.
So you can find me there, and I'm always around if you guys need anything. It has been such a pleasure, and
my pleasure. The pleasure's all mine. This was really good information. I wish I would have talked to you like 5-6 years ago. I could avoid a whole bunch of stress. But you know what? I shouldn't say that. The honesty is that those experiences were good. They were lovely people. They just weren't a good fit. And you know what? It did help me better understand what I needed. To be honest with you, had I not gone through the experiences I did, I would not have known what am I really looking for. And I love your analogy of the unicorn, but also being flexible enough to know if you can't find a unicorn, break it up into little bits and pieces and just spread the wealth amongst different VAs. And you know what? That is absolutely an option. And like, it's almost one of those like, oh, why didn't I think of that early on? Because in my head was, I wanted a unicorn.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But this is good. So now we've all learned.
Yes, I've
learned. So I want to thank my special guest, Jasmine. I'm sure we're going to have a great relationship together because I'm loving you. I'm like, so I'm very glad that I have met you. And as people know that we are starting to get the virtual coaches conference ready for next year, October, and the early bird tickets will probably go on sale around February. So I'm hoping, Jasmine, that, if you're not helping me, hint, 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 that you'll be coming in to do a workshop, or even if you had a video posted about this topic for coaches, because again, I really think one of the things we as coaches should have is a VA, because you really cannot do this by yourself. It's a lot of work. So I do thank you for you sharing your knowledge, your nuggets, your wisdom. Please go check out Jasmine. She gave you her information. And I want to thank everybody for listening, and let me know if this conversation was helpful for you. Leave us some comments. And remember, we can be found on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Amazon Music, who else? Apple Podcasts. I mean, we're all over. If there's a podcast, we're probably on it. Just search for Real Talk for Coaches. And we're probably there. So thank you everybody for tuning in. Again, thank you, Jasmine. It was a pleasure. Everybody go out there and create awesome sauce for yourself and for others.